Tonight, an exclusive interview with the man who represented Israel in the United Nations from 2011 to 2015. Joining us here in studio is Ron Prosor, who is now taking on a new role as the Abba Eban Chair in International Diplomacy at the Interdisciplinary Center in Herzliya. Mr. Ambassador, thank you for joining us, and welcome to Sarasota.
Thank you for having me.
You know, I know you're here in Sarasota talking to the Jewish Federation. And that should really be interesting because we live in interesting times. Sure. What is your view of our recent election and the new president and administration and how the policy towards Israel may change?
Well, first and foremost, I thought that Israel's political system is diverse, interesting, and chaotic. In a sense chaotic. When I found out we weren't the only ones, so it was really nice looking at this amazing democratic process taking place in the United States. I think from an Israeli perspective, Israel was always bipartisan, and I think this is really important for us to leave it in that position, work very, very hard. Because at the end of the day, it's not administration, it's the bond between the American people and the people of Israel, which transcends, you know, different administrations. So from an Israeli perspective, everyone watched the elections day and night, the electoral system. I think the only place in the world where everyone counted every state and where the American flag is being held and, you know, hailed tall and proud in the midst of Jerusalem and Tel Aviv.
But as we all know, there has been a lot of stress in terms of the relationship between the two countries or the administrations under the Obama administration and Prime Minister Netanyahu. And it started long before the recent UN vote in the Security Council. You know, President Trump has promised at the time that he was going to move away from that. So is there any sense of relief within the Israeli government that it is President Trump and not President Clinton?
Well, first let's try and analyze why those, discussions, misunderstandings are on really even on different views on issues. I think that Israel is on the front line encountering phenomena for years that Western democracies have yet to encounter. We're on the front line fighting terrorism, extreme Islamism, suicide bombings. I'll remind you, viewers, we began checking people at airports 20-odd years ago. And what did people say? Oi, 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 intrusion of privacy, how can you do that? What does it really mean? It means that democracies have to find ways to defend themselves. And the truth of the matter is the calibration, how do you do that? How do you defend your citizens on the one hand and not impede too much on other issues? And Israel tries to calibrate that for years. Now, I think the former administration, both vis-a-vis Egypt and Syria and on the Iran deal, saw differently than Israel. And we live in this region. Our people have to be subjected, and you saw that, to missiles from Hamas. We are dealing every day with those issues. So for us, this is not theoretical. And I think it's part of Israel's government's responsibility to first and foremost look at the security of the people of Israel. And I think that was part of the disagreements that were between the administration, but not between the people.
Right. But just as there is a difference of opinion in the U.S., there are also differences of opinion among Israelis in terms of strategy. There is strong support for Israel, obviously in the U.S. as well as Israel, but my impression is that there's a difference in terms of the strategy, primarily involving the issue of the settlements, which the prior administration, and frankly a lot of American Jews, believe is an obstacle towards the hope of peace one day.
Look, if you zoom back for a second, and you're enough,
Don't say I'm old.
I don't say I'm old, absolutely. I'm not old either. But I can remember people repeating that the Israeli-Palestinian conflict is a major conflict in the Middle East. You solve that, you solve all the problems? Really? Yemen, Libya, Saudi, Shiites and Sunnites, we have to solve it on its own merits. But it's the main, no, it's not. And I headed Israel's Foreign Service. I was the Director General of Israel's Foreign Service. That's where I lost most of my hair. From 2004 to when we disengaged out of Gaza. We took out all the settlements, and people forget, we took out 4 settlements in the West Bank to show that there's political horizon. Instead of basically turning Gaza into Singapore, we found ourselves with Gaza as a launching pad of suicide bombers, of missiles against Israel. So the Israeli people are saying, hey guys, are you out of your mind? What are you doing? This is Israel, small Israel. And when we defend ourselves, there were some, who basically sat and said, Israel has a right to defend themselves.
Right.
But not truthfully giving Israel, I'm not talking about the United States, that's this special, we have this amazing relationship, and the United States supports us and also supports Israel's right to defend itself by itself. But the situation, as you know, in the region, we don't have Luxembourg and Liechtenstein in our region.
Right.
Yeah.
But the question that a lot of Israelis raise and a lot of American Jews raise is, you could look at the West Bank and Gaza, and obviously the Palestinians do not have their act together in terms of a willingness to make peace with Israel. But when it gets down to the settlements and the continued construction of them, a lot of people are concerned that robs moderate Palestinians of hope.
Okay, so what I want to, it's a good transition to the fact is how do you define a settlement? Now, with the last Security Council resolution, which is, from my point of view, bad for America, bad for Israel, and bad for the peace process. Why? Because the Palestinians who've been absent in direct negotiations for the previous years, missing in action, why would they go back to negotiations, direct negotiations, if you give them everything they want without doing a thing? It's not that they were suddenly nice or friendly. And what did this resolution basically say? Hey, the Wailing Wall is occupied territories. Hebrew University, which I studied, well, if that's a settlement, ladies and gentlemen, you have a problem not with parts of the Israeli population, with the whole Israeli population. So in the sense, this resolution was, from my point of view, not just not constructive, destructive. Because at the end of the day, it tells the Palestinians, we have no reason to go back to that. When did we get peace? When we directly negotiated with the Egyptians, with the Jordanians, and by the way, we started by doing that directly with the Palestinians. The fact that they're trying to circumvent from the outside and force, that won't work. So this resolution, destructive, raising expectations, raising frustrations, at the end of the day will not lead to peace. It might lead to additional violence.
Are you concerned that in the U.S., the issue of Israel among American Jews is becoming increasingly partisan and divisive? You see it, in many synagogues where, how you land politically is how you view the Netanyahu government and the issue of the settlements.
First of all, I'm aware of that. But I'm always looking back and saying, look, I look at consecutive Israeli prime ministers, and I'm 30 years in the Foreign Service. I served in Washington during 98 to 2002. Why River Memorandum? Camp David, transition from Clinton to Bush. And it's really interesting because I was there. I was there when Ehud Barak at Camp David. And you can argue if we offered 98% to 95%, where were the Palestinians? So in the sense, we in Israel every day are looking clearly for people that we can talk to and achieve peace with. We always give our hand out to anyone who wants to have peace with us. But with the other hand, we are holding the shield of David very, very close to our chest, because only a strong Israel, a very strong Israel in this neighborhood, can achieve lasting peace.
What is the problem, though, associated with the reality that, as I said, American Jews are increasingly divided about the strategy, American strategy towards Israel.
No, and we have to reach out and try and explain the best of our ability why we're doing what we're doing. And as you know, Israel's political system is very diverse. And, you know, from the extreme left to the extreme right, this is a Jewish democracy. We give each other heart attacks every day. But I'm very proud of maintaining such an amazing society under those circumstances. And I want Jews all around the world to say, hey, you know, in 68 years, look at what we have achieved together. We have achieved a society where instead of oranges, we're exporting orange mobile phones. Instead of apples, we're designing Apple computers. We're sending satellites up into space. After 68 years, this is an amazing society.
You know, finally, you are the Abba Eban chair. For many of our viewers who don't know, Abba Eban was an Irish-born Israeli diplomat, former ambassador to the U.S., I believe.
To the UN.
To the UN, who became president of Israel.
No, foreign minister.
Foreign minister.
Yeah.
Forgive me.
Yeah.
But you have a funny story about him.
Well, Abba Eban, you know, he was a double first from Cambridge. And when he was asked to receive his honorary doctorate at Cambridge, he came back to Queen's College and in his acceptance speech said the following: "Ladies and gentlemen, I'm both honored and privileged to be back to this esteemed institution, Cambridge, where I learned the virtues of honesty, decency, and integrity, all of which is such a great disadvantage in all my political career."
And the same could go with our politics around here.
It's a joy to be here. Thank you for having me here in Sarasota. And I want to use this interview to say how much we in Israel cherish the friendship between the American people and the people of Israel. You are our biggest and most reliable ally, and it doesn't make a difference what administration it is. We are proud of this relationship, and we thank you for it.
Ambassador, thank you. Ron Prosor is the former Israeli representative to the United Nations. He is now taking up residence at the Interdisciplinary Center in Herzliya. We wish you luck in your new position.
Thank you.
All right, we'll be right back.